She's got more patience than I do.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Boker Tov. So nice to see your beautiful faces. Parshas Vayishlach. And the story, every week I tell you, when I read over the Torah portion, I'm amazed. It's so fascinating. I feel like I'm reading it for the first time, even though I studied it my whole life in yeshiva and yeshiva college. So a guy comes home from work and the house is a disaster zone. Laundry all over, breakfast still on the table, the kids running around in pajamas. His wife looks like Harriet, the harried housewife. He goes over, he says, honey, what happened? What happened to the house? What happened? She said, what happened? You know, every day when you come home from work and you ask me what I did today, well, I didn't do what I usually do today.
That is the truth.
Sometimes it pays to do that just to give the people a feel of what you do. It's like when my daughter had a baby, I was away for a few days helping her. Every 5 minutes, the kids were calling me. And the clincher was when my husband asked me how to set the dishwasher. I said, what? 38 years we have dishwashers. He says, you know, I never set them. And I'm like, I didn't realize that. So anyway, Parshas Vayishlach opens up continuum of the previous parsha. Yaakov, Jacob, is leaving Lavan, his father-in-law. After 22 years, he's going back to the land of Israel with his children, 11 sons, 1 daughter, and Lavan, his father-in-law, does not want him to leave because he has brought his business prosperity. He's a good businessman. His flock doubled. His finances have doubled. His investments have grown. He doesn't want Yaakov to leave. But Yaakov left, and now a new danger is coming his way. He hears that Esau, his older brother, is coming towards him with 400 men to wage war, to take revenge about what happened 22 years ago. His anger has not subsided. He's coming to attack. So Yaakov prepares 3 things. He divides his family, women and children in the back. He prays. They prepare for war. And he also prepares gifts, which teaches us that first you try to negotiate with peaceful ways. Of course, prayer always is the key to pray to God, but you have to also get ready. And he prepares to wage war as well because he might have to fight his brother. Now he crosses the Yabok River. They're getting ready. Esau's coming closer. And Yaakov realizes that he left some items, some jars over the other side of the river. Okay? So he goes back to get them. So his family is on one side, his family and his whole envoy is on one side of the river. He goes back to the other side of the river. And can anybody remember what happens when he goes there? What happens when he comes over the side of the river? That night, he encounters a ish, the Torah tells us, a man. Who is the man? Anybody remember? The host angel of Esau, who's coming to attack Yaakov. And the commentaries say a very interesting thing, that 2 times they point out the word ish, man, appears in the Torah. 1, ish, here, an angel of Esau who comes to attack him. And another time we're going to read in the next few weeks how Joseph goes to look for his brothers. Remember? He goes to look for his brothers and they sell him into slavery. That's when the whole conflict comes to the forefront. And he also meets a ish. And Rashi says, who is this man he met? He meets a man and he asks the man, oh, do you know where my brothers are? And he says, yeah, they're over there. And he gives him direction. So Rashi says, how did this man know where the brothers were? It was the angel Gabriel who was sent to give him directions where to find his brothers, because he was meant to find his brothers. So then how do we know that in this case it's not Gabriel, a good angel? How do we know it's the host angel of Esau? How do we know? And the commentaries say, because here the angel of Esau attacks. He fights with Yaakov. There, the angel is helping Yosef. He's directing him. He's giving him advice. He's giving him help. So the commentaries deduced by who you meet up with, that's how you know who the person is. You meet up with some people, they're always confrontational. They're always argumentative. They're always out to get you. You never meet up with them and there's something good coming out of it. But then you meet some people, there's always a positive exchange. They're always compassionate, empathetic. They want to know how you are. They want to know if they can help, and with heart. Not, oh, how are you? Oh, do you know what happened to me? And they don't even care how you really are. You know, you meet some people that ask you how you are, but they don't really want to know how you are. It's just conversation. How are you? But you know what happened to me? How are you? And you say, oh, you know, tomorrow I'm jumping off the roof. Oh, very nice. You know, I went shopping and I bought. So Rashi and the commentaries deduce that because the Ish here is an angel that fights Yaakov, you know, it's a negative Ish. And by the other instance, Ish is a good person. It's the angel Gabriel. That's how we deduce. So now there's a wrestling match. Is this the first wrestling match in the Torah? No. But there's a wrestling match. They're fighting. Yaakov is very strong. The host angel is also very strong. So a whole night they're literally fighting. No one can defeat the other. Finally, the dawn is almost arising, and the angel of Esau has to go back because angels can't stay on this world permanently. So he says to Yaakov, let go of me. Let go of me. I have to leave. And in the process, he dislocates the hip, the area of the sciatica of Yaakov. That's why we don't eat sciatica. When we buy kosher meat, they won't sell you the part with the sciatica. You wonder why? This is the reason. Good morning, Margaret. Good morning.
Wow.
We're discussing about
Good morning, everybody.
We're discussing about the fight of Jacob with the host angel of Esau. They're in a war. So that's why we don't eat the sciatica part of the meat, because to remember how the Esau's angel dislocated the hip of Yaakov in the war, in that little fight. So this is the most fascinating thing that happens. So Yaakov doesn't let go of the angel of Esau, even though he's in pain and he's wounded. And he says, I'll let you go if you bless me. Now, this is ludicrous. You're fighting your enemy. You're at the battlefront. He dislocated you. He shot you in the hip. And you say, I won't let you go until you bless me. You really want a blessing from your enemy? You really want a blessing from your enemy? And the angel blesses Jacob, the angel of Esau, and off he goes. So the lesson in this is that even in a battle, even when somebody dislocates your hip, even when you're in a conflict, you can withdraw from that conflict a blessing. You could always get a blessing. That's the secret. Sometimes we have a battle. We have a challenge. We have a hurdle. We fight. It's internal, it's turmoil, or it's external. You have to look for the blessing in it. At the end of the battle, even if you're hurt, even if you were the right person, even if you were the one that was hurt and it wasn't you who started the conflict, always look for the blessing. Find the blessing. Yaakov says to the host angel, I'll let you go, but give me a blessing. This conflict can't be for naught. You have to give me a bracha. And he gives him a blessing. He ends up giving him a blessing. And this struggle between Yaakov and Esau is also metaphorically the struggle throughout life of the Jewish nation with the nations of the world. We always struggle. They always come to attack. They never let go. They never let go. And we see it throughout our history. The Crusades, the Spanish Inquisition, the English Inquisition, the English whatever, when we were expelled, the English expulsion, the Nazis, Yamach Shemam, the Arabs in Israel. Even when we're in peace, even when we're living and minding our own business, the Esau's come to attack. They don't let us go. Even when we're taking our own possessions, Yaakov went to claim his own possessions. The Esau comes to attack. They don't let go. And also, this is metaphorically in our own lives, the turmoil, the struggles we face in our lives. It's representative of the struggles. And where you have to always take out the blessing. So now Yaakov was hurt. He goes back over the Riabak River, ready, and God heals him, of course, a miracle, not of course, but a miracle. And now Esau comes with 400 men ready to wage war against his brother and family. You know, George Burns has a joke. He says, it's great to have a large family, provided they live in another state. Provided they live in another place. So now, Yaakov attacks. I mean, not yet. He comes to attack. And a very interesting exchange happens. I want to read it from the Pasuk. Anybody want to add anything? And Yaakov looked around. Esau was coming with 400 men. So he divided the children, he put the family in the back, and he went ahead of them to protect them. And Esau saw the men and children, and Yaakov said, who are they? He says, this is my family. Okay? And look what happens now. Yaakov, just want to get up. And Yaakov's compassion was aroused. So Esau's compassion was aroused. He ran toward Yaakov. He embraced him. He fell on Yaakov's neck. And I want to read it in the Hebrew. Vayishlach, he kissed him. Vayivchu, and he cries. And the commentaries say, Vayishlach, he kissed him. What is this kiss? Commentaries say when he embraced Yaakov, he meant to bite him, kill him, like a vampire. But of course, God did not allow that to happen. And it turned into a kiss. He really meant to bite him because the same term, Vayishlach, to kiss also means to bite.
Really?
Yes. But God did not allow him to be bitten. It turned into a kiss. What does this tell us? That sometimes somebody's kiss is a bite. People, they go, oh, love your new Chanel bag. But when I called you for Super Sunday, you couldn't give an $18 donation, could you? Saying to themselves, oh, you look so gorgeous. What, you're trying to look like your teenage daughter? People, they give you a compliment, they give you a hug and a kiss, but there's a shtech, as my father used to say, a shtech, which means they stick it to you.
Mm-hmm.
So Esau's kiss is really a bite. He doesn't mean to kiss Yaakov. He's forced to kiss Yaakov. He really wants to bite Yaakov. So be careful. Those kisses you don't want. Like my mother, we said, you have nothing nice to say, please don't say it. Keep quiet.
My mother said the same.
Yeah. So some people's kiss is a bite. To be careful. To be very careful. But anyway, they are reconciled. And Esau goes on his pathway. I'm summing up because I want to get to more of the story. And Yaakov goes his way, and he comes to a place called Shechem. City Shechem, land of Israel. And now there's one of the greatest tragedies in the Torah story happens. But before I go to them, does anybody want to add anything or share an insight?
You said that Esau had 400
men,
soldiers behind him?
Yeah, he came with an army. He was going to attack.
And Jacob didn't have any, hardly any.
No, Jacob, Jacob was wealthy because he left Laban with so much sheep and cattle and wealth. He earned it, even though Laban tried to swindle him out of it. We didn't get to that last week's Torah portion. His father-in-law tried to swindle him out of everything, but God protected him, and he ended up leaving with a lot of stuff. Okay. A lot of material goods and a lot of wealth. So Jacob went there penniless, because remember he was running away.
Right.
And he came back wealthy, back to the land of Israel. It's interesting, our forefathers and matriarchs and patriarchs were very wealthy. Abram was one of the wealthiest people in the country, in the world. Yitzchak inherited his father's wealth. And Yaakov, though he left penniless, right, and he didn't have a trust fund, he built his finances by his father-in-law, even though his father-in-law didn't let. What happened, I'll tell you very quickly, it was very miraculous. He tells his father-in-law, I want to leave. I don't want anything from you, he tells his father-in-law. You don't have to give me anything. So his father-in-law tries to convince him to stay, and his father-in-law says, okay, any sheep born with spots, you could take. So what happens that year? Every sheep is born with spots. So the Laban says, no, I changed my mind. Those are my sheep. Any sheep born without spots, you could take. What happens that year?
No spots.
All the sheep, no spots. So he ended up leaving because of whatever his father-in-law tried to jeopardize. Say, okay, you can only take all the cows with stripes. They ended up all having stripes. He tried to manipulate. And there's a very beautiful story. Yaakov knew science and technology. He took a certain branch and he fed it to the sheep. And that enabled spotted sheep to be born unspotted, or vice versa. It changed a little bit the DNA of the sheep, but not in a dangerous way. So Yaakov figured out how to get the sheep. Yaakov, the commentaries explains, it's a very interesting science lesson, how he figured out that a certain branch, a certain branch blossom causes sheep to recreate like the external DNA. So he outwitted his father-in-law every time. I just read this last week. I wanted to share it, but I didn't get a chance because I thought, wow, this is fascinating. He knew science and technology. He understood what we're studying now with microscopes and computers. He did it on his own. So it was very fascinating, right? So he left with tremendous, tremendous wealth. Isn't that interesting how he figured out what to feed the sheep, right?
I wonder if it really works. Yeah.
22 years, he really knows his line of work as a shepherd. He takes it seriously. So what were you saying? Okay. Oh, so he leaves and he encounters Esau. And it's interesting, after his fight with Esau, something I wanted to mention is the Torah portion says, and now Jacob becomes whole. What do I mean? Before 11 children, 12 children, 4 wives, he's not whole. But the reconciliation with Esau now creates a harmony in his life. The Torah is telling us, when there's conflict in your life, it doesn't matter. You have, thank God, healthy children, you have a happy marriage, you live in a nice home, you have your 2-car garage, you have a job, you're content. But if you're fighting with your brother, your sister, your grandmother, your neighbor, your family, you can't connect for some reason, even though you were the hurt party, there's something missing in your life. That Yaakov, though he had it all in a sense, right? Something did not allow him to be whole, the harmony with his brother, the full circle. Once he makes peace with his brother, the Torah says now he's tamim, he's whole. So there is something to be said about conflict, how it hurts you, even if you're the wrong party, even if you're right. My brother did swindle me out of my inheritance. That was a slap in the face for my sister-in-law. My cousin didn't come to the wedding even though he was meant to come. We all have hurts all the time. But if you can get rid of those hurts and reconcile, it creates a wholesomeness, a wholeness in your life. You may not even know that it's hurting you. And then when you reconcile, you suddenly feel like something came off your chest. Like I told you once, I was worrying and worrying about something, and I called my mother, and literally for an hour, we went through everything that could be worrying me. My mother said, is it the kids? I said, no. Is it the money? No. Is it your husband? Is it the shul? Is it your class? Like, what's bothering you? We finally figured it out, and I suddenly felt great. You don't even know sometimes something is sitting on you. And when it comes off, the Torah is saying when he reconciles with Esau, he feels complete, he feels whole. Even again, his brother was a con artist. His brother was a ganef. His brother was a hunter. His brother abducted people. His brother was a terrible example of humanity. But he reconciles, and now he's whole. Something also because Esau is easy to reconcile with a guy like that, coming with an army to kill you. You can say, oh, no, God Almighty, take me away, extract me from this danger zone. What did they say in Star Trek? Beam me up, Scotty. Out of here. Ever watch Star Trek? They're always beaming people up at the last minute when the guy's about to be shot by the phaser. Scotty beams him up and he disappears. Beam me away. Yet he reconciles with his brother. And now the Torah says Yaakov feels whole. He feels good. So we have to think about it. The hurts and the pains, how we could reconcile. And we all have it. I have it. I can't speak for you, but we all have those people that we really need to, at one point, to, reconcile because it hurts. I always tell my kids, when you hold a grudge, the person you're holding the grudge doesn't even know it, let's say. You are the one hurt because you're carrying the grudge. Carrying a grudge, carrying pain hurts you, not so much the other person. They may not even know they wounded you or hurt you or said something. The fact you're carrying the grudge hurts you because you're carrying around that negative energy and it hurts you. So you have to find a way to let it go. Even if you can't, let's say, confront the other person, find a way to let it go.
But if you do confront the other person and the other person is not agreeing with how you're feeling, then it just has to end there, I guess. You can't.
Yeah. There are times you try to reconcile, the other party is not receptive or has a very vehement reaction, and then the onus is on them now. You did what you could. But sometimes, you doing what you could is also a way of releasing. I did everything I could. I tried everything. It didn't go. Sometimes it's not on you anymore. Sometimes you have to step away. You cannot be accountable for everybody's craziness, mishugas, and their baggage. Their baggage, somebody else might be hurting you. You understand? They don't even know they're lashing at you, but really they have other unresolved issues. It's the common, I'm no therapist, but it's like almost, we know that that's what it is, so you step away. That's why they say don't be around toxic people unless you have to. Because that toxicity hurts you, even though you're positive, right? Mm-hmm. Are you right?
Yes.
There's some people, I stay away because I feel always like there's something, and sometimes I feel is it me? Or maybe it's just them. I don't know. So that's, I think, the insight here with Yaakov and Esau. But here they reconcile. Which is, again. And you see, Yaakov doesn't have it easy, by the way. He's always struggling. First, he has to disguise himself as his brother, right? Putting on his brother's clothes. Then he has to run away. Then he gets, Rachel he's in love with, he gets Leah. Then he has to work for 22 years for his swindler father-in-law. And then how he wants to go, he has to sneak out. He doesn't let him leave, he sneaks out. And then he comes chasing after him. Why'd you leave? Why didn't you go leave nicely? He says, because you didn't let me leave. And now he finds out his brother is going to attack. He goes back to get possessions. He gets attacked by the angel. He's dislocated it. Now he comes back. Yaakov has a very turbulent life. If you read about it, and I would tell you the story about this guy, you're going, he can't catch a break, the guy. No one leaves him alone, but he's the patriarch. He rises above everything. That's why we're called the children of Jacob, the Bnei Yisrael, the children of Israel. And now his name gets changed from Yaakov, the heel, to Yisrael, the one who has prevailed over the angel. He was victorious. Sar Yisrael. He's the leader of Israel. He has prevailed over the angel. He's victorious. So he's now called Yisrael. He has a new name, and we'll soon see a new reality sets in. Till now, he had to survive through his wits. He figures out a way to trick with sheep, right? He's always having to maneuver. He marries Rachel, and then he gets Leah, then he has to figure out how to get Rachel for another 7 years of working. He has to sneak out to leave. He has to figure out how to negotiate with his brother. He's always using his wits. That's Yaakov. Now he rises above. Now he's going to be Yisrael, the Jewish people that now we take the high road. We don't get down and dirty anymore. We take the high road. This is the new reality of our existence. We are now here. We survive with our intellect, with our wits, always taking the high road as Jews. You see it even with Israel. They're always willing to negotiate. They're always willing to be the nice guys. Our whole attitude now is Yisrael. We're above it all, which is really a beautiful thing. Because when you feel you're equal with somebody and you're really not, you stoop down to them. But when you know you're above, you want to be like that? Fine, I'm Yisrael. I'm going to take the high road because I'm God's child. I got the Torah. I know my direction in life. The Torah is my guide. This is who I am. We know who we are. We have a clear identity. We're not going to be like you. Just because you want to hurt us, we're not going to hurt you unless we have to, you know? Jews don't go to war unless they have to go to war. We don't look to war. We don't look to hate. That's not us. We're Yisrael. So when he fights and conquers the angel of Esau, God says, now your name will be Yisrael because you've prevailed over the angel. Sar, hail. You are now Sar. How do you call Sar? Not the Lord of God. You are the leader, godly leader in a sense. I'd love to just see what the explanation of the Torah is, how he called. Yeah, give me a second.
Like the Scion, S-C-I-O-N?
Yeah. I want to know the exact explanation. What's your name? Yaakov? And then, okay, that's why we eat. Okay, and he calls him now. Okay. See, we'll find it in a few minutes. Okay. It means you have overcome Sar Kale, but I want to just see the other. Tell me your name. Okay. All right. I want to know the exact explanation. Give me a second. Okay. Look for it 1 more second and that's it. Okay. I think I even wrote it in my phone. So hold on a second. I wrote it down. I like to write notes. Hold on. Yeah, here it is. Prince of God. That's the word. Prince of God. And Sarkel means you have lorded over the angel. That's word. Okay, I'm glad I wrote it because it was kept getting stuck in my throat. So again, he's called Israel. Yisrael means Prince of God. Also from Sarkel, which means you have lorded over the angel. You have lorded over the host angel and you have prevailed. Okay, good. So now we know what Israel means. Okay, I'm sorry it was bothering me. Okay. So now is one of the great, saddest stories, I think. There's many sad stories, but this is one of the saddest stories in this section of the Torah portion. And it is the story of what happens to Dinah. Does anybody know what happens to Dinah? Well, first of all, who is Dinah?
She's the daughter of Jacob's daughter.
Exactly. She's Jacob's daughter. And who's the mother? Which of the women are the mother?
Rebecca or Leah? Rebecca? No.
Leah.
Leah.
Okay. So now, just let's get back on track. They finished the reconciliation with Esau. Esau goes his way, Yaakov goes his way. Remember, Yaakov is returning to the land of Israel, and he ends up in the city of Shem, holy land of Israel, Shem. Now let's see what happens. So they're camping out, right? They're setting up tents. Good morning, Diane. So glad. Diane, you're joining us at the most the saddest part of the Torah portion.
Welcome.
Now I'm going to read the Torah the sentence. Tell me what you analyze this with me. Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she born to Jacob, went out to look about among the daughters of the land. Dinah bas Leah, asher yolda leYaakov l'ros b'bnoi haaretz. So the Torah portion says Dinah, they're camped. She goes out. She goes out on a little venture to see the daughters of the land, the daughters of Shechem. Okay? Now, what happens? She goes. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. She encounters the prince and she gets free.
Exactly. Shechem. I read it inside. On. The son of Chamor, the Chivite, prince of the land, saw her. He took her, lay with her, and violated her. Shechem tells his father, the prince, take this girl from me as a wife. I'm in love with her. I want to marry her. So he kidnaps her, he violates her, and now he wants to marry her. So what happens? Chamor, the king of Shechem, goes to speak to Yaakov and says, listen, my son is in love with your beautiful daughter. Let's make a shidduch. You will come here, we'll live together in harmony, and your daughter will marry my son. And Yaakov is silent. He doesn't release Dinah. She's still a prisoner by his son. So Shimon and Levi, the two of the sons of Yaakov, who are part of the negotiations to release the daughter, say to Shechem, to Chamor, to the king, we can't have a harmonious relationship with your family. You're not circumcised. You worship idolatry. We are the children of Abram and Sarah and Yitzchak and Rebekah, even though, remember, this is before the giving of the Torah, but they still had a path, of monotheism, the family. Nobody worshipped idolatry. We can't marry you. So Chamor says, no problem. All the males will circumcise. We'll make a mass circumcision here in our place, in our city. And they do that. All the boys, all the men get circumcised. After all, they want to marry into the family of Yaakov. You got to do it. When they finish the circumcision, Shimon and Levi gather an army and they kill out all the men of Shechem. They kill them, and they take their sister home. They set up a rabbinical court. Kidnapping, you're chayiv misa, according to the law, the Jewish Torah. If you kidnap, you are liable for death, the death penalty. So they wipe out the city of Shechem. They trick them, they circumcise, and they wipe out the city of the men. And they take Dinah back home. And the women, by the way, all the women are now widows, right? Their husbands are all killed. They embrace monotheism and they give up idolatry. And they take on the path of Yaakov. Very interesting what happens here. So Dinah, we'll get to that in a minute. So here's a tragedy. So Dinah comes home, but could you imagine the trauma for this young woman?
Oh.
Horrible, horrible story. And the fact that Shimon and Levi wiped out a whole community, more than a community, a whole country in a sense, a whole Shem, it's also they deserved it, but it's not a happy occurrence. The Torah, though, tells us the whole story. And now we're going to see something unbelievable here. We're going to go and analyze exactly what happened. So Rashi says something very interesting. And now tell me your reaction to this Rashi. So let's go back to the beginning. Dinah, the daughter of Leah, right, goes out to Shechem, right? Is that how the story opens? So Rashi jumps in and says, Rashi, the classic commentary, the daughter of Leah. Why doesn't it say the daughter of Leah and Jacob, or Jacob and Leah? Why does the passage highlight that Dinah is the daughter of Leah? The Dinah, the daughter of Leah, goes out. So he answers, because she went out, because she chose to have an excursion into the city of Shechem, she's called the daughter of Leah, since Leah, her mother, was always also in the habit of going out. How do we see that Leah is also a woman that goes out? Because in the previous Torah portion, it says Leah came forth toward Jacob. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. So Rashi's saying, like mother, like daughter. Dinah was a person who went out. How did she learn that behavior? Her mother was a woman who went out, as in the previous portion. Like mother, like daughter. So now let me ask you, when I read you this Rashi, do you feel that Rashi's saying something positive about Dinah or something negative?
Negative.
Feels
Negative.
Yeah, it feels negative, even though it doesn't have to be. It does.
Right. In other words, doesn't it seem a little bit like the blame is on Dinah? You went out. Who asked you to go to a dangerous place like that?
It's
Mother-
almost like he's not really saying, but inferring that she asked for it because she was
which, by the
where
way,
she wasn't supposed to be.
It also, like they say, she wore a mini dress. That's why it happened. Really?
Right.
Even if she wasn't, even if the person went without any clothing, no one has a right to violate anyone else.
Right.
She was asking for it, they like to say. So, and can we really think that Rashi would say something so negative about Dinah? Rashi? Big question now I'm posing to you. We're analyzing not only the pasuk, we're analyzing Rashi now. Rashi is saying maybe, in a negative tone, like mother, like daughter. Wow. Very very disconcerting. Wait. Now let's go back. Let's go back to the story where Rashi is drawing a correlation. Remember, Rashi says Dinah went out because her mother is an outgoing woman. So she's an outgoing woman. Where's Leah so outgoing? I got the impression, and tell me if you did too, that Leah was more the introverted sister. And it seems like the Rachel was the charismatic, beautiful. As a matter of fact, when we get introduced, it says Rachel Yifas Toya. Rachel was gorgeous. And Leah, Einayim Rakos. Her eyes were red and swollen because she was crying about her, we'll talk about it soon, about her life. She always struggled, Leah. Remember we did last week's Torah portion? Rachel is the gentle sheep, and Leah is the one that's transformative. She struggles. She's always overthinking everything, right? Leah seems to be the more complicated sister. So where does she go out? Let's go back now. I'm going to go back to last week's Torah portion, which I didn't talk about because I was saving it for this week. So in the previous Torah portion, there's a story. Her oldest son, Reuven, went into the wheat harvest and he found Dudayim. What's Dudayim? Dudayim is jasmine. How do you call that thing? It's tell me if I pronounce it right. Aphrastic? It's like a fertility.
Oh, aphrodisiac.
Aphrodisiac, you're right.
Say that again?
Aphrodisiac.
He finds her an aphrodisiac called Dudayim, which helps with fertility, and he brings it to his mother. Okay? Now, Rachel sees how her nephew is bringing her sister these fertility plants,
Aphrodisiac. Yeah.
aphrodisiac, and she says to her, can I have some of them? Because Rachel wasn't able to conceive, remember? Leah was having baby after baby, and Rachel was barren. She was infertile. She says to her sister, I see your son got this very valuable plant. Can I have it? So Leah says, okay, sure. But tonight you're supposed to be intimate with Yaakov. It's your turn. Give me your night. If you switch nights with me and give me tonight to be with our husband, Yaakov, you can have the plant. So Rachel says, okay. This is the exchange. Now, let's go. So now she gives her the plant. Now, so what happens now? It's nighttime, and Jacob is coming home from the fields. And the pasuk says, she meets him, she goes out and she meets him in the fields, and she says, honey, just wanted to tell you that tonight you're going to be with me. Don't go to Rachel's tent, you're coming to my tent, to my house. We swapped. And he goes. And that night she conceives her next child. So what does Rashi say here? Okay. Rashi says, second. Rashi says here that tonight's belong to me because I changed it for the plant with Rachel. Leah went out to greet him because she exchanged the plant for her night with Yaakov. Now that Rashi tells you what happened, how does this sound? Does this sound negative? The story of Leah?
No,
How do you
went
feel?
out. She went out.
She went out. It sounds actually a little romantic to me. What do you think, Jane?
Doesn't sound negative. I mean, they made a deal.
Yeah. And why did Leah do it, by the way? Why did Leah do this?
Why she would do that? Why she just wouldn't give it to her? Why did she want to switch?
A very good question. So the commentaries say because she had a prophecy that she had to have 6 of the tribes. Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, Zevulun. So she had to make sure that she would have what God meant her to have to fulfill her destiny. She wanted to fulfill her destiny. So she has 2 more children after that, Yisachar and Zevulun. So that's why she did it. She went out to greet her husband so that she could have intimacy, so she could continue bringing the tribes, the children of Jacob into the world, because she knew she had to have 6 tribes, 6 of the children. Remember, Rachel had 2, and Zilpah and Bilhah, the 2 handmaids that were given. Rachel, when she saw she didn't have children, she gave her handmaid to Jacob. And Leah did the same. Each one of them gave handmaids to Jacob to have more of the 12 tribes afterwards, because they knew there had to be 12. Remember, these were not ordinary women. People said, Freida, why do you have 11? I can't say that I had a prophecy to have the 11 tribes, because I was just trying to do, the right thing and have a nice large family. But here they knew, the matriarchs, Rachel and Leah, again, they're not ordinary women. They know that they have to fulfill a certain destiny in their lives. They feel it. They're prophetesses. They have a distinct connection with God. So now let's just compare. So there's 2 Rashis. One tells us, wow, Leah went out to greet her husband, to tell him, honey, you're with me tonight. So beautiful. And then you have the story with Dinah, like mother, like daughter. Dinah went out to Shechem. Where did she learn how to go out? Because her mother went out. So how do we reconcile these 2? So now, being Rashi 1 that talks about Leah going out to greet her husband is so positive in a sense, because it's telling us that she took action to fulfill her destiny to have children. You cannot accuse Rashi of being negative with Dinah, because Rashi is drawing a correlation of a positive act that Leah did. So why would we suspect Rashi of being negative about Dinah? You understand what my point here? Let me reiterate. Hi, Diane. Reiterate one more time. Being Rashi is showing a positive, Leah in a positive light in the previous story. We don't want to suspect Rashi of showing Dinah in a negative light. Otherwise, Rashi wouldn't draw a correlation. If Rashi is complimenting Leah, Rashi is saying something very powerful about Dinah. In other words, he's highlighting Dinah's personality in a positive way. And he's trying to tell us it's not her fault that this happened. He's
Wasn't
joining
her
us.
intention. It
Right.
wasn't her intention.
Why did she go to Shechem? Why did she go to Shechem? So the commentaries explain, and Rashi says she went. Right? Why did she go to Shechem? Who remembers?
Just to get to know the women in the town.
Why would she want to get to know them? A knitting club.
No. Maybe to have some influence on them.
Excellent. She's
So now
following
in the end, they're the ones who survive and they're the ones who join.
Beautiful. So Margaret, she accomplished her goal, but she suffered the consequence.
Sacrifice. Yeah.
Right. She suffered this consequence. So Dina's intention to go to Shechem was to meet the women and the girls, right? Says the daughters, and talk to them, say, there's monotheism. We don't worship idolatry. We believe in one God. Let's influence our families. Let's influence the people in the community. She went out as an emissary of her parents' and grandparents' mission of shlucha to go impact the community. She did outreach work. She was outreach. So Rashi is actually telling us something very powerful, that Dina had the ability to transform people. Dina was charismatic, smart, and had a transformative energy where when she met up with people, she had a talent. Some people have a talent of motivating, inspiring, empowering others. They're leaders. That's Dina. That's who Dina is. She's a leader. So Rashi's not saying Dina is outgoing to say, oh, yeah, she's a loose girl. Rashi's telling us who Dina was. Who is Dina? He says, who is this Dina? And she's the daughter of Leah. Now I'm going to share with you something spectacular. So why does Rashi say she's the daughter of Leah? So one reason is Leah's outgoing. Dina's outgoing. Leah goes out to greet Yaakov in the field. She takes initiative. Dina takes initiative. They're both women who take initiative. But there's even a deeper reason she's Leah's daughter. Let me share with you a Rashi now. Unbelievable Rashi. So Leah is intimate with Yaakov, and she gives birth to Issachar, and then she gives birth to Zevulun. And now the Torah tells us she gets pregnant again. And she bore a daughter, and she named her Dina. The Torah tells us. Passage Chaf Aleph. Why did she name her Dina? So Rashi jumps in and says, our sages explain that Leah judged herself. Dina means to judge, done. She said, if I'm now pregnant with a boy, then my sister Rachel will only have one son, Joseph, one of the 12 tribes. It's not fair. She has to have at least 2 of the 12 tribes. She has to be on equal footing with the maidservant who each have 2 sons. It would break my sister if she had only one son. So when she got pregnant, she prayed to God to turn her fetus, she knew it was a boy, to turn her fetus into a girl. She judged herself. She evaluated, how could I allow me to take away my sister's dignity and self-respect? I have to ask God to make this fetus, who was supposed to be a boy, into a girl. And God answered her prayers, and Dina was born as a female. Wow. Right? Wow or not wow?
Well, how did she know it was a boy to begin with?
Remember, she's Leah. She's Leah. Some people tell me, I knew for sure it was a girl. I knew for sure it was a boy. But did they really know? I don't know. But remember, Leah is not me. Leah is a prophetess. She knew it was going to be a boy at conception, but asked God to turn it into a girl. That's why Rashi knows and says she's the daughter of Leah. Because Leah is the one that brings Dina. Otherwise, she would have been another boy. It's Leah who changes the destiny of Dina in her womb.
Wow.
And this is Rashi. This is not even Kabbalah. This is Rashi, plain. Sometimes somebody will say, Freida, that's like so esoteric. This is plain Rashi. Now, interesting, when all the other tribes are born, the Torah says why everybody's named a certain name. When it comes to Dinah, it doesn't say in the Torah why she's named Dinah. The Torah does not reveal the reason for the name. Rashi tells us why. Because Leah did not want people to go around and know that it's common knowledge that the baby was supposed to be a boy and now it's a girl because of her prayers. Then how would Rachel look? Oh, yeah, Rachel was supposed to only have one son. But, Leah prayed, everyone would be saying in the gossip column. So it turned into a girl. So Leah kept it a secret. This was between her and God. Leah didn't tell anyone that she prayed for her fetus to her child that she conceived to be turned into a girl at birth, at conception. Only she knew and God knew. No one else knew. Because again, she did not want to embarrass Rachel. Because we might say, oh, Leah stole her husband. Leah was not such a compassionate person. Not true. So to reiterate, she's called the daughter of Leah because it's because of Leah she's Dinah. She's born. She would have been a boy. She wanted Rachel to have the two tribes and be on equal terms with the handmaidens. Okay, so now it's clear. Rashi in no way is telling us that Dinah is at fault, or even saying Dinah's too outgoing. Quite the contrary. Dinah is now, we know she's a person who's transformed. She has that power, that energy, that tremendous, tremendous energy. And her father knew it. And we're going to see soon because the plot thickens. The story, by the way, I'm sorry, did not come to an end right now. There's another whole section, whole analysis of what happened here. Okay. Everything clear till now? I know it's a little, I think I taught this last year, but I felt, even when I relearned it now, I saw something else inside. And I felt like this story needs to be retold every year so that we understand what happened here for ourselves. So I hope it's okay if you already heard a little bit of this and I'm repeating. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Of course.
Yeah, we don't
Okay.
always remember
Here
everything.
again every
Okay.
year too.
So now, a terrible tragedy, right? Okay. So she comes back. There's more to the story, which I'm going to tell you in a minute. Remember when he goes out to meet Esau, right? And he separates the children and the wives. And it says, and he rose during the night, and he took his 2 wives and his 2 mainstream and his 11 children, and he crossed the ford of Yabok to meet Esau. Rashi jumps in and says, what? He took his 11 children? He had 10 sons and 1 daughter. That's 11 children. I mean, that's 12 children. Remember, Benjamin wasn't born yet. So Yaakov, when he arrived by Esau, he had 1 daughter and 10 sons.
11.
11 sons and 1 daughter. He had 11 of the tribes and 1 daughter, right? That's 12 children. The passage, the Torah says, is 11 children. Where was Dinah, Rashi asks. How come it says he crossed the ford to meet Esau with his 11 children? What do you mean? There's 12 children. Dinah is missing. Rashi jumps in and says, where was Dinah? Benjamin was not yet born, but Dinah should have been counted. But Yaakov put her in a chest and locked it up so that Esau would not see her. Therefore, Rashi says, Jacob was punished for withholding her from his brother, because his brother would want to marry her. She would have caused him to improve his ways, and then she fell into the hands of Shechem. Wow. Again, I have to say, wow. Rashi's saying something really, really mind-boggling and so controversial. Yaakov knew if Esau sees his gorgeous, charismatic, outgoing daughter, Esau will say to Yaakov, I want to marry your daughter.
Oh. Nice.
And Yaakov didn't want that. Yaakov did not want his daughter marrying Esau, even though the Torah says, had she married Esau, she would have turned him into a Baal Tshuva. She would have transformed him. Yes, go ahead, Jane.
Wasn't Leah supposed to marry Esau too?
Excellent.
Oh,
Remember, I started off by saying that Leah was weepy when we first meet her. Why was she weepy?
she didn't
Why
want to
does
marry
the Torah?
Esau.
What? Say that again.
She didn't want to marry Esau.
She was meant to marry Esau. Yaakov was meant to marry Rachel. Remember, we discussed that Yaakov's energy was the scholar in the tent. That's Rachel. Esau's energy was to be the leader of the Jewish people, the king, the conqueror. He had tremendous, tremendous potential to conquer the universe, to conquer darkness, to sublimate evil. But he chose the opposite. The Darth Vader in Star Wars. He became the Darth Vader. So originally the destiny was the older sister Leah would marry Esau. Yaakov would marry Rachel. That's how it was meant to be. When Esau is born and chooses the path of darkness, he's an abductor. He's a hunter. He's an idolater. He worships idolatry with his wives. So Yaakov is now forced to assume the identity of his brother, the spiritual destiny of his brother. He doesn't want to be the king. Yaakov, that's not his nature. Yaakov is a soft-spoken, scholarly type with thick glasses. You know what I mean? He's a Rebbe. He's a rabbi. Now he becomes Esau and Yaakov in one. He now has to assume the spiritual identity of his brother and the spiritual destiny of his brother and his own spiritual destiny and identity. So when he wakes up in the morning and he sees Leah lying near him, he says, "Why did you deceive me?" He says to her. She said, "I had the best mentor. You were my mentor. You deceived your father, so now I had to deceive you," which means the Torah says, what? That's the first thing you say on after the wedding night. The first conversation is, "Why'd you deceive me?" "Oh, I had the best mentor." That's a conversation after the first wedding night. Not, "I love you. This has been great. Wow. It's amazing." Right? No. "Why'd you deceive me?" "I had the best teacher, you." What she said to Yaakov, the minute you put on Esau's clothes and you became the spiritual Esau, the spiritual energy, I now had to marry you because you were Esau. You were my destiny. You changed the direction of my life too. I was supposed to marry Esau, but I couldn't because you became the Esau. It's a Kabbalistic insight here. You understand what happened over here? She now said, "You're the mentor. You're the one that changed, made me need to have to marry you because you changed the whole trajectory of what was going on."
He became the whole package.
Exactly.
The package. Yeah.
You know, the COO and the CEO, the rabbi and the king, the scholar and the conqueror. You know, the corporate raider.
Yeah.
You know, every company.
She didn't emphasize the deception part of it.
Well, she said to him, she didn't want to be nasty. She said, "I had the best teacher. You were my mentor. I learned, I did it because of you." But then the Torah says that the Kabbalah explains she should have still married Esau. You know why? Because had she married Esau, she would have transformed him, but she didn't want to.
so then they had a daughter that was supposed to do the same thing.
Very good. That's what the Kabbalah says.
And they
So Jane, go ahead. So what happens?
Well, I have a question about that, but then they didn't want her to marry him either.
Not that
bad. But
yeah.
Did they marry their nieces back then?
Yes. That the laws of marriage were totally different. Once you got the Torah, the laws were very strict. But remember, before Rab Gershon, you could marry a few women, right? But then Rab Gershon made the edict, you can only marry one woman, even though according to Torah law, you could have more than one, but we don't. Tradition becomes also law. If a certain prophet makes a rule, you follow it. That's a tangent. Yes. Also, yes. it says that the matriarchs and patriarchs kept the mitzvahs, but they weren't required to keep the mitzvahs. So the whole marrying thing, they didn't follow. Everything else they did. They kept Shabbos, they kept kosher, circumcision, Shabbos candles, challah, all the other mitzvahs. Okay, so now let's jump back on Jane. Jane said that Dinah now is supposed to marry Esau. Her mother didn't. So now her mother's spiritual destiny gets transferred to her. The Kabbalah says, you don't only inherit your parents' DNA physically. My mother has blue eyes, I have blue eyes. My mother has curly hair, I have curly hair. My father has dimples, I have dimples. You inherit the DNA, the spiritual DNA of your parents. If you don't actualize your potential, your child is left with that mission. When Leah did not marry Esau and chose to go with Yaakov, because she said, well, look, you're now Esau and you're also Yaakov, I'm going to marry you instead. Now the spiritual destiny passes to her daughter. And Yaakov did not let Dinah fulfill her spiritual destiny. He hid her away. He's a father after all. And this is what the consequences were. Terrible consequences happened. Everything got, now this does not excuse someone from being a violator, a killer, a murderer. That's his free choice. But the fact that she went into Shechem instead of getting married to Esau changed the schedule of events, in a sense. There's consequences to everything that we do. When you're a tzaddik, when you're someone like Jacob and Leah, it's not like you threw a paperclip across the floor. And okay, threw a paperclip. Everything they do is not like everything we do. You can't compare. Everything they do impacts the universe. When they step on the floor, the mark is left. When I step on the floor, you forget about me in a second. The matriarchs and patriarchs, everything they did impacted future generations. That's why they're the matriarchs and patriarchs. And that's why they're judged on a whole different level. And I'm saying I'm an ordinary person. If I was judged like that, would I even be here anymore? You understand? Okay, so Jane, what did you want to say?
Why did they have to kill all the men?
I know. It's a tragic story, but I'll tell you why. According to Jewish law, no one went to the king, the police, the courts of law in Shechem did not say to the king, your son needs to be arrested. He committed a crime. No one stood up. So according to Jewish law, all are now, how do you call when you're all guilty? You're all culpable? Culpable?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're all culpable according to Jewish law. Not only are the one who committed the crime, everyone committed the crime. You didn't send in the police to arrest your son? And this is happening in America today too. The high and mighty are protected from all these terrible crimes because they're high and mighty. And no one's standing up. Except, now we had the women who stood up. But you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This story in Shechem is happening every day in America and all over the world. We don't hold people who are kings and princes liable for their crimes. And that's why, according to Torah law, they were all guilty.
Wow.
We're calling men, not little boys. We're talking men above the age of a certain age who killed. By the way, the story is not a happy story. The Torah tells us the story to show you the ramifications of the action. Now I have to share. I know. Do we have a few more minutes just to finish?
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Dinah gets pregnant with Shechem. You remember that? She gets pregnant. And her daughter, Osnat, is born. And Osnat is ostracized because she's the daughter of a crime. So Yaakov takes his granddaughter, and she sends her to live in Egypt. And he gives her a bracelet that says inside, engraved, you are the granddaughter of Yaakov, and you are the granddaughter of Yaakov and Leah. And he puts in like a passage. Now fast forward, Yosef is 17 years old, the son of Rachel. He gets sold into where? Where does he end up?
Slavery.
in which land?
In
Country?
Egypt.
Egypt. And he's at a ticker day parade. He's now the prime minister, remember? He becomes the prime minister. And there's a ticker day parade for him. And all the girls, he's gorgeous. The Torah tells us Yosef was like handsome beyond. Everybody wanted to marry him. And all the girls throw their hankies and their jewelry at him when he's on the ticker day parade. And Osnas throws her bracelet. And he sees, and into the chariot, and he picks it up. And what does he see inside the bracelet? I am from Osnat is the daughter of granddaughter. And Yosef is not going to marry an Egyptian girl. He's Yosef. He has persevered. He has kept his Jewish identity, his loyalty to God and his family. And he goes and sends his people, find the girl. This is the Cinderella story. Find the glass slipper. That's how, by the way, a lot of these fables and fairy tales are built on Torah stories. And they bring Osnat, and he marries her. Comes full circle. So Yosef and Osnat get married, and they have Menashe and Ephraim. They're sons. So it's really beautiful what happens. It's so tragic, but it's also beautiful. Yosef also suffers what his mother-in-law suffered. Dinah, ostracized, attacked, sold into slavery, put into prison, accused of attacking Potiphar's wife, right? He marries a girl that has his energy. Out of the box. Dinah is outgoing. Joseph transforms the world. As viceroy of Egypt, he conquers the world. Remember, he gets rid of the hunger. He stores up food. He changes the whole tapestry of the world at the time. Everyone comes to Egypt to buy food. Yaakov, Yosef, and Dinah and Osnat are from the same transformative, charismatic leaders. Why did the brothers sell Joseph? Because you're not like us. We're shepherds. We sit in the tent and we study Torah. We don't go out. What's this going out? What's this wearing this flamboyant, multicolored coat? Who the heck do you think you are? You're not like us. They don't understand his mission and his destiny, so they sell him. Dinah was like Joseph. She went out because she had the ability to transform people. So did Joseph. Joseph marries Dinah's daughter. It's the same DNA, out of the box. The out of the box people that you wonder, like, what happened to my son? Couldn't he just sit in yeshiva for 20 years and study? Did he have to go out and conquer the world? Sometimes we don't understand. And when we don't understand, we attack. We vilify to our own detriment. Yaakov didn't understand that Dinah had to marry Esau because Dinah would have changed Esau. Esau would have become a Jewish leader, a Jewish king through Dinah. But he didn't let. Leah should have married Esau, but she didn't want to. And sometimes that's what happens. Leah would have transformed Esau. The Torah clearly says it. So this is what happens. But here you see the beauty and the strength of Dinah, and then her daughter Osnat, and then Joseph. And we'll talk more about Joseph in future days. So Dinah, and so the Torah tells us the story of Dinah, but also here we leave ourselves, hopefully, with the picture of Dinah as a courageous girl who went through a terrible tragedy in her life. And it is her daughter who marries Joseph. The Torah portion ends. I'll just say quickly the ending. I had a beautiful, beautiful insight, but Rachel is pregnant with Benjamin as they travel, right, back to Israel, and she dies in childbirth, giving birth to Binyamin. So the Torah ends with Rachel, Torah portion ends with Rachel passing away and buried in her own tomb in Beit Lechem, the tomb of Rachel. She chooses to be buried separate from her husband and everyone else who's buried in Hebron, in Ma'aret HaMachpelah. Why? Because she knows there will be a time that the children of Israel, the tribes, will be thrown out of the land of Israel. And on their way out, after persecutions and torture and killings, they're going to need a place to offer them comfort. So Rachel sacrifices herself to be buried separately, so she will always be there for her children when they are exiting the land of Israel by force or by choice or whatever. And the beautiful thing is that when Yosef was in shackles and he was sold into slavery, remember the traders by him, they passed by his mother's tomb as he's being taken away into slavery. And he runs away from them and he jumps onto the gravesite of his mother, resting place, and he cries out, "Ma, help me, they're taking me to Egypt. I'm a slave. I was abducted. I was sold into slavery." He's crying by his mother. And a voice comes out of the tomb of Rachel and she says, Joseph, Yoseleh, don't cry. I promise you, I'm giving you a blessing that God will protect you. I will protect you and you will prosper. You will overcome. You will succeed. And Joseph is then torn away and taken into slavery. And this is what keeps him going. His mother's last words to him from her tomb, from her resting place, that she will protect him. And this is really the Mama Rachel that prays for all of us. This is where you go when you want to pray, you go to Mama Rachel. She sacrificed herself to be buried apart so that she could be comforting to her children and future generations. So you look at Rachel like, is she courageous? She's very courageous. You see the power of the matriarchs in so many different ways and so many powerful ways. And she's the last of the matriarchs. Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Leah, Rachel and Leah. Their self-sacrifice is what sustains us today. That's why people, the red string, they say if you walk around the tomb and you put on a red string, I don't know if it's a Baba Maisa. I always say to people like this, if it doesn't contradict Torah and Jewish law, it's okay to wear a red string or do other customs, traditions. So the Torah portion ends with our wonderful mother Rachel. And I always look at her and I always say like, wow, if I could be 1 ounce of Rachel.
Oh.
1 ounce of Rachel. So this is how Vayishlach ends, on a sad note, but also on a high note. On a high note. Thank you all very much.
Wow.
Does anybody have any questions?